Have you ever wondered why too many people fail after revealing their plan to success to the people around them? It is the silent killer of human ambition. It happens every single day, in every corner of the world. You get a sudden flash of inspiration, a groundbreaking idea for a business, a new career path, or a massive life change. The excitement bubbles up inside you. You cannot hold it in. You go to your friends, your family, or your colleagues, and you lay out your entire blueprint. They clap for you, they pat you on the back, they tell you how brilliant you are and how rich you are going to be. In that moment, you feel like a conqueror. You feel like you have already won. But then, the days pass. The weeks turn into months. The initial fire fades into a cold ash. The project stalls. You procrastinate. Eventually, the dream quietly dies, and you are left exactly where you started. Why does this happen? Is it a lack of discipline? Is it bad luck? No, it is a biological and psychological trap. By speaking your intentions aloud, you have unknowingly activated the very mechanisms that destroy success. Today, we are going deep into the human mind. We will uncover the 4 exact reasons why revealing your plans kills your future. And to prove it, we will examine the tragic famous failures from China, the USA, Europe, and Africa. Men who had the world in their palms, but talked it all away. If you have a big dream burning inside you right now, stop talking. Do not say another word until you understand these 4 laws of silence. The first reason your plans fail when you talk about them is rooted deep in neuroscience. It is called the dopamine trap, or social reality. When you sit down and do grueling, difficult work, like studying for hours, coding a website, or building a product, your brain rewards you with dopamine. It is the chemical of satisfaction. It is nature's way of keeping you motivated to cross the finish line. But the human brain has a fatal flaw. It cannot easily tell the difference between doing the work and talking about doing the work. When you tell someone your grand plan and they look at you with admiration and say, "Wow, that is amazing," your brain receives a massive, unearned spike of dopamine. You get the emotional reward of the finish line before you have taken a single step. You become a mental millionaire. Your brain feels satisfied, so it shuts down the hunger and the drive required to actually execute the plan. To see the devastating effects of this, we look to a famous parable from a rural province in China. In the early 1980s, there was a man who was a highly skilled potter. He had the talent to change his life, but he had a shouting soul. One morning, he stood in the village square and made a massive public vow. "I will not just make pots," he declared. "I will become the greatest porter of our time. I will build an international port. I will export our goods to the West. I will use the gold to build sprawling factories, and I will build brick houses for every poor man in this province." The villagers were mesmerized. They cheered his name. Every day, the potter would go to the local tea house and describe his future factories in even greater detail. He soaked in the admiration. The dopamine flooded his system. He felt like a savior. But because his brain was constantly being rewarded by the praise of the tea house, he lost the motivation to return to his dirty, quiet workshop. The actual, unglamorous work of molding clay became boring compared to the thrill of his speeches. He spent all his success energy on the talking. When a harsh winter finally arrived, the potter had no inventory. He had no savings. He had no port. The same villagers who had clapped for him now mocked him as a foolish dreamer. He fell from grace to grass, dying in the very mud he was supposed to mold. He failed because he consumed the reward before he endured the sacrifice.
The second reason you must maintain absolute silence is a brutal reality of the world. Not everyone wants you to win. When you announce your plans, you believe you are gathering supporters. In reality, you are alerting your enemies. In business, in careers, and in life, competition is fierce. If you are building something quietly, you are invisible. You have the ultimate advantage of surprise, but the moment you open your mouth, you place a bright red target on your own back. You give the sharks time to prepare, time to counterattack, and time to lay traps. No story illustrates this better than the tragic hubris of John DeLorean in the United States. In the early 1980s, DeLorean was a rock star executive. He had a vision to build an ethical, futuristic supercar that would last forever. If he had retreated to a quiet warehouse, built his car in secret, and suddenly dropped it onto the market, he might have changed automotive history. Instead, he committed the ultimate sin of strategy. He went on every major television network. He graced the covers of magazines. He loudly bragged that his new company was going to completely destroy the big three automakers in Detroit. He showed his hand to the most powerful corporations on Earth. The corporate giants didn't just watch, they mobilized. DeLorean's loud mouth gave his enemies a timeline and a target. Competitors pressured suppliers to delay his parts. Politicians scrutinized his factory deals. The media, whom he had used to build his hype, suddenly turned into vultures waiting for him to bleed. Because his plan was so public, he had absolutely no room to maneuver. When financial pressures mounted, the intense public scrutiny forced him into desperate, illegal decisions to save his dying company. John DeLorean was arrested, his company was liquidated, and his stainless steel dream rusted in junkyards. He talked his way into a trap that he built with his own words.
The third reason revealing your plans is a fatal error is that it constructs a prison of impossible expectations. When you keep a project secret, you have ultimate freedom. You can pivot, you can make terrible mistakes, you can completely change the design, or even delay the launch by a year, and no one will ever know. Silence is a safe laboratory for failure. But when you announce your plans prematurely, you surrender control of the narrative to the public. The public imagination will always build your product up to be greater, faster, and more perfect than reality can ever deliver. You create a hype monster that will eventually eat you alive. Look to Europe, to the story of Sir Clive Sinclair. In the United Kingdom, Sinclair was hailed as the absolute wizard of modern electronics. For years, he teased the press. He loudly proclaimed that he was developing a revolutionary vehicle that would permanently end traffic, eliminate pollution, and replace the gasoline engine forever. He hyped his secret project for half a decade. By constantly talking about his grand plan, the British public began to expect a levitating spaceship. When he finally unveiled the Sinclair C5 in 1985, the reality shattered the illusion. It was a tiny, fragile, battery-powered tricycle. The media relentlessly mocked him. The public laughed. A man who could have revolutionized transportation became a national joke, leaving him exposed to the brutal British rain and the very traffic he promised to end. The fourth, and perhaps most sinister reason to stay quiet, is the poison of human envy. In many cultures across the world, there is a deep understanding of the evil eye, the destructive, negative energy radiating from jealous people. When you eagerly reveal that you are about to sign $1 million contract, buy a new house, or start a massively successful venture, you are triggering the insecurities of everyone around you who is stuck in their own lives. In Africa, the most legendary and enduring business moguls of the 1980s understood this psychological warfare perfectly. The entrepreneurs who failed were always the loud ones. They were the men who went back to their villages and bragged about the ships they were going to buy or the government contracts they were about to win. This premature boasting sparked fierce jealousy. Uncles, cousins, and former friends would silently resent them. This envy wasn't just spiritual, it turned into physical sabotage. People would spread vicious rumors to ruin their reputations. Competitors would bribe officials to block their permits. Their deals would mysteriously fall apart at the last minute because they invited the eye into their uncompleted houses. The real winners, the men who built generational wealth across the continent, were known as the ghosts. They operated in the shadows. They bought land through proxies. They built their massive factories in the bush, far away from the prying eyes of the city. They never bragged. They never sought validation from their peers. They understood that you never, ever show the world your seeds while they are germinating in the dirt. You only open your mouth to invite them to the harvest. Your words have immense power. They can build worlds, but they can also drain your energy, alert your enemies, set impossible traps, and invite the poison of envy. The path to the top is not paved with loud announcements. It is paved with quiet, relentless, invisible execution. Do not tell them you are starting a business. Do not tell them you are getting into shape. Do not tell them you are leaving your job. Do not tell them your next move.